Welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. I'm your host, Kyle Williams, and this is the #1 web show where aspiring independent artists, producers, bands, and musicians can learn right now how to find their market, gain exposure, and effectively grow their fan base. In today's episode, we have John Tuggle on the show from LearningGuitarNow.com. And what John does is he helps people to play blues in the style of Duane Allman, Eric Clapton, Derek Trucks, and B.B. King. And what's cool about John is that he's been able to not only increase his guitar skill to like a fantastic level playing blues in several different styles, but he's also built a successful business teaching others how to do so. So he has learned a lot about time management and what the key elements are to playing blues really well. Also, how to play guitar in this one specific way that will take a mediocre guitarist and make them great. Stay tuned to find out. Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. On this show today, we have John Tuggle from LearningGuitarNow.com. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to meet you, Kyle.
Good to finally meet you guys. I've actually been signed up to his newsletter and been using his amazing backing tracks on YouTube to practice my own blues, because about like every once a week I go out to the blues jams in San Fernando Valley, and it's a really great way to get me prepared. So I've been following him for a while now, and he's a great musician and also runs an awesome, successful business with Learning Guitar Now, teaching musicians how to play blues in the style of Duane Allman, Eric Clapton, Derek Trucks, and B.B. King. So, John, you know, you're a successful musician and you're a successful businessman with a successful business. That's like a rare. I find that to be a rare combination of a lot of musicians, because a lot of musicians, we think of ourselves as we're not business savvy. We don't understand the business end of things. Can anyone learn how to do this, or were you just like different, do you feel?
Well, I mean, it definitely takes time to learn how to do all this kind of stuff. It's not like learning guitar. I mean, it's the same kind of learning, but it's a different type of. It's not guitar playing, you know. It's a whole different marketing, how to attract people to what you offer, and how to get people excited about what you have to offer. And that's not really what musicians are inherently good at, I think. And I wasn't good at it at all either for a long time. And I wrote a book, and I was going to try to sell it all over the place. And I spent about 1.5 years writing this thing. And I didn't spend any time working on any kind of marketing or like, how am I going to sell this thing? You know, the main objective is just to finish the book. You know, people will come to it. You know, if you build it, they will come is not true. Yeah. You know, because I've been there and done that. And played a lot of music and did a lot of different things with music and had not a whole lot of success because, you know, you focused on only the music. So I guess you have two options. You either find someone to do it for you, which could be really expensive for most musicians, or you read a lot of books, or you listen to a lot of podcasts. So I decided to listen to like marketing and selling podcasts for about 6 to 7 hours a day for about 6 months.
Wow.
Before I started Learning Guitar Now, because I just didn't know, like, how do you price things? And what kind of wording do you put on a website that, you know, will make someone want to buy this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, not trying to con them into it, but just to allow you to have a chance. You know, you could have the greatest guitar lessons or greatest music out there or whatever, but if you're not, like, giving people the opportunity to purchase it, like, the proper way, it's going to be pretty much difficult. It's not going to happen. It's kind of what I figured out. I mean, I wrote the book and a lot of people liked it, but you know, I really didn't sell any online because I had no idea like how to get ranked in Google. You know, who knows how to do that?
Yeah.
Who knows like what to do with like customer service or like how do you treat your people with email? I mean, there's just so much that goes into all the stuff that I was like, I want to learn all this because I mean, I spent 1.5 years writing the book. And sold, you know, some to my students and whatnot. I had a book signing, and I think I sold like 2. You know, I think I signed about 2 or 3. It was a complete flop. Is what happened when I wrote the book. So I was like, well, I'm probably not gonna put out any more instructional material. This is back in 2005, and so about 1.5 years later, I decided to just start again. and figure out what I did wrong with. It's not really writing the book. Most people can like create music and write a book, and if you really like put your heart into it and develop it in something you're really into, then the next step is like, how do I sell this or just get people excited about it?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who can like create instructional material. There's a lot of people who can like write, and anybody can record music these days.
Yeah.
So, figuring out what's going to set you apart from everybody else, and also what's going to like make these people like want to be interested in you.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it's hard to figure out. And most musicians will just like, as long as I create an amazing album, everything else will take care of itself. And that's not really true, I don't think.
No.
It's, you could create an amazing album and nobody would really care about it at all.
Yeah.
If you don't like bring them to it,
Yeah.
finding your audience, I guess,
Yeah.
is the hard thing. Because they're not, like I said, I don't think, if you build it, they're not going to come unless you show them directly how to get there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've found out. And it's definitely not easy, because it's not the same type of brain that you need to learn to play guitar with. It's really artistic and emotional. That's a lot different than trying to learn about selling and, business and taxes and all this stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, if you don't set it up properly, I mean, if you're not making money, you're not going to be doing it for very long.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it as your job, like there's a whole different like set of circumstances, I believe, that comes into play. Because I've read so many stories just about people who created music and then they were broke because they didn't know how to manage the money. How do you stay out of debt to do something like that?
Yeah.
Do you just take a credit card and blow $100,000 just because you need like an amazing sounding album? I was like, that's not really the way to go. Or, debt. I listen to all this kind of stuff about Zig Ziglar and Dave Ramsey. Managing money and managing like how do you treat people, and it really helps out a lot.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with like music, so it's kind of two separate things that you got to really tackle.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful at like music.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories, a lot of guys become kind of successful and then they take all the money and just blow it. And then they're like, being self-employed, I mean, you're on the edge all the time.
Yeah.
If you're in debt.
I think even successful artists are running into trouble money wise. I don't know. This is just my opinion, but when the Rolling Stones was playing their latest tour and they were trying to sell tickets for a ton of money, and even their hardcore fans were having a hard time being able to buy those tickets, and so they eventually sold them for less. And that got me thinking that maybe even successful artists, like if they have control of their money, they don't manage it, they blow it, and maybe it's, I don't know. I'm a big fan of long-term success and long-term sustainability, and it seems that what you've done, where you've taken the time to learn the other half of being as a successful musician. Now you're set up for long-term success, and now you're enabled to play your music for years to come, because you're not going to have to constantly struggle going from paid gig to paid gig when gigs don't really pay that much.
Yeah, that's a rough place to be at, and I've definitely been there. When you need the next $50 just to eat, that's not really a fun place to be. So after years of doing that, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't live like this, but I'm going to do music some way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before I started learning guitar now, I was teaching 50 people a week, and I taught private lessons. I don't really teach that many right now, but for about 17 years. But a lot of times 30, 40, and 50 people a week. Just for years. And then I started playing in a wedding band as well. If you want to be like, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to be successful and make money, you might not be able to do exactly what you want to do when you start doing it, I don't think. I emailed some guy that lives in Atlanta, and he's really successful, and he told me just to do as many things as you can. So if you know how to teach. If you know how to play any gig you can.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just play, I'm going to write these songs and I'm only going to play them. if you're a singer-songwriter and that's what you feel like you need to do and what you have to do, that you may have to do other things on the side, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as like a player, you know, a guitarist, or bass player, drummer, just some guy trying to like make a living playing music, you may have to play weddings, you know, bar mitzvahs. A lot of, I mean, I played 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the hits. Madonna, you know, Prince, Michael Jackson. After the 100th time, it kind of gets old. Well, that's just kind of, you know, what you got to... Eventually, it led to me doing all this. So, I mean, just lots of gigs of all different kind of types. And, you know, the wedding bands really help if people want to get into that type of thing because they pay pretty decent playing a wedding band. So I mean, you just got to do whatever. He told me just as many ways as you can make money, you can just do it. Record bands, you know, record for other people, record online for other people. I've done all that. I recorded bands in my house, you know, singers. I recorded a couple of rappers one time.
Oh, cool.
You know, just all kind of things. Wrote books, DVDs and stuff, and eventually it all panned out to just learning guitar now eventually. So it's been just kind of a roller coaster ride of putting it all together. But you got to have I think you just got to have like a foundation to build upon. So if you start, you just got to know where you're at and where you want to go.
So having clear defined goals, you know.
Yeah, you know, and they can change, but you know, if you're not, Zig Ziglar talks about all the time, you know, if you don't set any goals, you're just going to be like, well, I can't remember the exact quote he uses, which is really good. See if I can remember it. He says, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every single time. So a lot of musicians kind of like aim is like, well, I'm just going to be a musician. Well, that's not really a goal. That's just kind of like, you know, this, I believe, it's just like a way of life that people have created in the world. It's like I can do whatever I want to and just, you know, play music. Well, what does that look like, I think, is what you have to like, start nailing that down. What would you want your life to look at? I think putting those goals together like that makes it a lot easier to see it happening. Now, what do you want to? Do you want to be working 80 hours a week? Do you want to be touring 9 months out of the year? Or do you want to be touring 2 months out of the year? You know, I think all those kind of things help to putting like what you want to do instead of I'm just going to play music. It's kind of like there's not really you can do that without you can do that easily.
Yeah, it might be the initial spark, like when someone just like decides that they're gonna, instead of like living a life doing, trying to pursue, not pursuing what they love, they decide, okay, I'm gonna do new music. But the next step after that is like, okay, what does that mean exactly for me? What does that sound like? And personally, for me, it's definitely it's a continuing journey because, you know, constantly developing like precisely what I would want to do with music. Like, would I just want to be a guitarist trying to play someone else's music? Would I want to write music? I mean, just those two differences there, those two ideas have a huge impact on what decisions I would make and anybody else who's in a similar situation.
Oh yeah. So I think that really helps people to narrow down. You definitely got to have goals, and then I believe the second step or whatever step, third step maybe, is just having a date on them. It's like if you don't really like say, okay, well, I want this to happen in a year or 2 years. It's like it's just not a good probability of it ever happening.
Parkinson's law right there.
Yeah, you know, if it doesn't happen, well, then put a new date on it. That's what I've done. I mean, I started saying I want to sell this many DVDs in 3 months. Yeah. And then I do it, and then I said, well, I want to send this many DVDs in 6 months. Yeah. And I want to have this many people coming to the website, and I want to have this many DVDs for sale, and I want to have this much money coming in, and I want to have that. You know, I had like hundreds of things written down. Yeah. And they all don't happen at once, but, you know, you got to start somewhere. Yeah. So eventually, you know, maybe it's just have a website. Maybe it's having 5 people come. Maybe it's having like 5 people sign up for your newsletter. Mm-hmm. And maybe you want 500 people on your newsletter. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, by a year from now or something. But I think those like dates and number type goals kind of help it along.
You need pressure. You need pressure.
Yeah, you got to have something. You know, if you're not working towards something, you're just working towards some kind of unattainable, like... Yeah. There's nothing there to like say, okay, I did that. You can't check it off. And I think those things help. But that's kind of that's helped me, is just having the goals and keep them. And then you always have to keep adjusting them, because a lot of times, like probably 50, 60, 70% of them don't happen. And then you got to figure out, why did they not happen?
Yeah.
And then you got to reset new goals and new dates.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that type of stuff kind of is not really, okay, let's jam and blues and E. It's not the same type of brain, It's like, do that kind of stuff, or let's go jam, let's write songs and go to the blues night and jam and stuff.
Yeah.
That's like not music anymore. That's like real work. That's not fun. But it's fun for me because it eventually leads you to somewhere where you can do that more than previously.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, I haven't been 100% consistent with going to the blues jams, but what I found is makes it more exciting to me is if I learn my own song and lead it, then I can play something besides Mustang Sally.
Yeah. Yeah. That gets old, That's a really cool song, but I've played it so many times, but it does get kind of old after a while.
Yeah.
Playing the same old tunes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably the most like excitement I got at a blues jam was when someone just, like the bassist, we didn't play a blues. Not to say I don't like play blues, but the bassist just happened to know the chords to Blue Bossa, so we played that, and we had a guy on horns, and that was really cool. I mean, we weren't even playing blues at all, and even a song like Stormy Monday Blues, which has like a different, which you can use like minor seventh chords in it, and it has like a different sound. I mean, just that breaking out of the 1-4-5 12 bar is
oh
great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's not the only type of thing you can play,
Yeah, I know.
Blues.
Jeez.
But it's definitely, like, I guess that's like the basis of it. There's so many different styles too, though. You don't have to like play like Jimi Hendrix on every blues song.
Yeah.
And I think I've always been into Sam Cooke a lot, and Ray Charles, and a lot of those guys play 12-bar blues, but they sound totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a more R&B influenced.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more tighter sound, just a different sound. And even B.B. King has a lot of different, grooves other than just, the standard. Because there's some standard jams that mostly I've been to that most everybody does at one point in time, and those are cool. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think an audience kind of gets tired of the same old, dun 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 dun, every single song, or fast. There's like 3 speeds, fast, medium, slow.
And I feel like it forces you're playing into, like whenever not just when you play rhythmically, but when also you come to solo and you want to play your solos to the rhythm, obviously. So you're not up there doing all this stupid, not to say it's dumb, but it's not gonna fit. Like if you're just doing all this non-rhythmic, wailing. Yeah. So you play rhythmically, but if it's like, then you just end up playing like, I know, at least for me, like my soloing, I just feel like, it's hard to break out of playing the same thing every time.
Yeah, I find that's one of the hardest things to do, is just not play, just riffing all the time is what I like to call it. Because people will get, you learn all these like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Derek Trucks licks or whoever, Hendrix. I hear a lot of people, they learn the riffs, and that becomes like their solo is riffs over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I always tried to break out of that by listening to a lot of singers, because singers like have like something to say. Yeah. And then a lot of those type guitar players, that's what they're doing. That's what exactly makes them so awesome. Is Derek Trucks and Steve Ray Vaughan. But that's the hard part to learn. It's easy to take a couple of licks from Derek Trucks and just do it all the time, but to put that into like a melodic solo is a lot harder than just to learn like, here's 10 Derek Trucks licks. Yeah. But putting that flow together is one of the hardest things to do. I've seen a lot of people can play that style, but they just can't flow it like that, and it's hard. I have problems doing that. It's hard for a lot of people, But I think that's the biggest thing that separates people is like, just not riffing all the time and trying to say something. And it doesn't have to be like 1,000 notes. It doesn't have to be like a few notes. Just whatever it needs to like say something like a singer. Because I listen to Derek Trucks, and that's kind of how he solos. Dwayne Allman too. He solo like a singer.
Hmm.
They're not really soloing like, just it's just like riffs put together.
Hmm.
And that's I think that's one of the hardest things to break out of
Yeah.
is transitioning from I know licks to like I'm just going to play a solo. That
Yeah.
sounds like something I want to do
Yeah.
instead of pieces of what I've learned,
Yeah.
which is it can be pretty difficult. I think that helps though. Listening to like Sam Cooke and Ray Charles or
Yeah.
the vocals because the vocals can't riff the whole time.
Yeah.
They got to like say something, and most of them are very memorable. That's why I like those old R&B ones
Yeah.
because they're just classic, like scales and riffs kind of put together.
Yeah.
They're really melodic.
Yeah.
But you hear Derek Trucks do all these crazy like blues riffs, and then all of a sudden it's just like it's like somebody singing. So that's kind of what makes his solo sound good, in my opinion. If he just got up there and just tore it up, for 3 or 4 minutes, it'd be cool the first time. But after 2 hours of that, it'd be like, that's about enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sometimes, yeah. I definitely think that's one of the keys to his playing. That's why people like it so much, I think. It's just so melodic.
Do you have any exercises that you do to work on developing that vocal style of guitar?
Well, I haven't done a whole lot lately, but I used to just sit down with a CD player and listen and try to reproduce those vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And like the trail ends off, if that makes any sense. A lot of the Ray Charles and Sam Cooke guys, they'll sing something and then there's a trail off.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear that Stevie Ray Vaughan do it. You know what I'm talking about? Like they'll sing something and then it's just a da.
Oh,
like
their vote, like the breath is coming down.
Yeah.
They're coming up, and instead of like silencing the note, it's like, ha. Like if you're singing and then you're ending the. Am I making sense? The breath is coming down.
Yeah, he'll do it. Something like da 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 da.
Yeah, I heard that in Hendrix too. I heard that.
It's a classic blues riff.
Yeah.
To do, and you heard Derek Trucks doing all that stuff, back and forth, and that's really to me that's just Sam Cooke. If you listen to his vocals, he does that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Wilson Pickett and those type of guys.
Yeah.
It seems if you just like turn the CD player on and just try to figure out a couple of those, just something easy like When a Man Loves a Woman. It's a classic Derek Trucks riff, really, that he does all the time. See, I think it's a major sixth to major third kind of moves, but
okay.
Those type of just licks are just they're so easy and they sound so good. I teach one of them like "Bring It On Home." It's a Sam Cooke song that it's got an awesome melody to it, and it's something I used to play all the time. And that's I teach that in one of my DVDs, just about playing that melody.
Okay.
So that really helps out a lot.
Okay.
I think playing intervals, like as far as like notes of the chord,
okay,
and then playing like singer type licks, and then if you mix that up with all the like riffing and whatnot, it makes it a lot more melodic, I think.
And what was the name of this DVD again that you offered?
That was my slide guitar method too, just like major scale. It's in this open tuning course I've put together.
Okay,
but it's just like learning how to play the major scale.
Okay.
And not like playing the major scale, like da na 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 na, because nobody ever uses that. I mean it's the scale to know, but nobody ever plays it like that unless you're just running down the scale. Which, I mean, people do that every now and then, but it's not really music; it's a scale.
Yeah.
So just knowing like what notes to play for the major scale, like I said, like When a Man Loves a Woman, that's just straight major sixth, major third, and roots, pretty much just going back and forth between those notes. But you don't have to play every note of the major scale, and knowing like which notes to play in the major scale. What do you end on and what do you start on? Because a lot of times if you try to start or end on a lot of the notes in the major scale, it's not really going to sound that great. So learning your 1-3-5s or learning your 1-3-5 flat 7 or major 7, whatever it happens to be,
the
chord tones.
Yeah,
ending on those kind of starts opening things up. And then you can end on any of those on whatever chord you're playing over as well. Is that when it starts like opening up even more when you change to the chord,
Hmm.
use those chord tones.
Hmm.
It's not really that difficult when you just start talking about it, but
Yeah.
when you got a fretboard laying in front of you, you got so many options, you don't even know where to start.
Yeah, but just keeping it small and definitely having good instruction, some
Yeah,
kind of
it definitely
instruction material to
helps.
go from. It'll definitely help a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I spent years just myself just hammering it out.
yeah.
Uh,
So
it's
it must have kept you really. I mean, you must have been like so crazy busy, like creating this content. These like training course DVDs, and also the free lessons in addition that are on your site, plus backing tracks on top of that, and the business side, and the website design, and all
oh
that.
yeah.
Like, how did you keep up with this insane schedule? What's your secret?
You had to write goals down. I mean, I had a Google Calendar filled with hundreds of items that I would just keep filling up.
I had
It's
this
like,
interview on my Google Calendar.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've recently switched to Evernote.
Oh, Evernote.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I really like Evernote. I got all kinds of stuff in there, and I just mark them off every day.
That's Mac
So,
only, right?
what's that?
Is
No,
that
it
Mac
works
only?
for everything.
Oh,
That's
it
why I like
is.
Evernote. So
Oh,
you can put it on your PC, your Mac, your phone, iPhone, Android, tablet, iPad.
nice.
That's what's so awesome about it.
Is it
So
free or
yeah,
is it?
it's totally free if you don't like have a bunch of like media. I just type in mine, so I don't really need much in there, but it's
Oh,
free, works on everything.
awesome.
So I've got it on every computer in the house, and
Oh, okay.
laptop, iPhone, and iPad, whatever, it's synced to everything.
Okay. Cool.
So that's cool. You have an idea or whatever in your car, and you can just have your phone right there, pull up the Evernote, and either make a new one.
And
So I do that with song ideas as well.
okay.
Riffs and melodies I come up with, all kind of stuff. It's so awesome to have that.
Do you voice record to it? Like you sing a melody
Sometimes,
along?
yeah.
Okay.
I just wrote like about four or five songs I'm about to record pretty soon.
Okay.
And I pretty much wrote all the melodies for the lyrics. I wrote all the melodies and all the lyrics and everything, and I'm gonna have someone else sing them. And I did it all with the iPhone. When I'm riding in the car, I just get like the melody.
Yeah.
I was cutting the grass one day, ran in, sang into the phone, and that type of stuff. It worked so awesome. Technology these days has so many cool things you can do with it.
So is that your would that be your top time management tip for musicians is to get Evernote and start writing your
Yeah,
goals
it
on there?
really does. Yeah, if I was like trying to learn a lot of stuff on guitar, yeah, I would have Evernote and just like create a practice thing. And you can have check boxes, and every day you practice it, and then you check it off, and the next day you got to recheck it again. That's cool. Well, I do a lot of that stuff in my
I'm gonna
finances.
write this down. Let's see, make
It
sure I
works
don't
really
forget.
well. So I do that with like money budget stuff. Have all these check boxes. Like I have to make these goals first to pay for these things, and then I
Hmm.
check them off every month. And then when the month rolls around, bam, you uncheck them, and you got to check them again. It just puts that pressure on you that like these need to be checked off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you wake up the next day, or you see it and be like, well, yeah, it's that.
Yeah. You need
Yeah.
accountability.
Yeah. So that kind of helps. But yeah, it takes a lot of like discipline to do this. There's a friend of mine that I recently met. I guess it's been a couple of years, but I met him in person. He's Anthony Stauffer from Stevie Snacks.
Hmm.
We talked a lot about just being a one man kind of guy that creates all these lessons, and you got taxes, and then there's customer service, and then there's new lessons, free lessons, and yeah, all the new stuff, backing tracks. It becomes huge, all the stuff you got to do.
Hmm.
So you definitely got to have all kind of stuff written down, of what's supposed to happen or what's got to happen, and then that's the only way to keep moving forward. I think. It's just, I got a list of about 20 DVDs I'll record here in the next 5 years,
Wow.
and I have like plans for the shopping cart, and money plans and financing and customer service things and things I want to happen that aren't happening right now, and how hiring people to do these things. And so it becomes like as long as you have a plan, you have somewhere to go. It may not follow that plan, but at least you got something to follow. Because there's nobody waking me up every morning and say, do your job.
Yeah,
It's the hardest thing to get used to.
Yeah, you work for yourself, so you have to have your own motivation. So, John, I want to ask you another question about learning guitar now, your website.
Yep.
You have a very specific target. I mean, it's not just like, oh, learn blues guitar. It's like, learn blues guitar in these specific styles from these specific people. Has being, like, very specific with your business helped it grow?
Yeah, I think that's really the key to being successful at all. Is like, before I wrote like a beginner guitar book, and there's probably like 5 bazillion beginner guitar books out there. So, you can't really, it's hard, unless you got some kind of new crazy invention, it's hard to reinvent beginner guitar.
Yeah.
So, my favorite kind of stuff to play is the stuff I teach on my website. So, slide guitar, that's what I feel like I excel at, and that's what I like to teach. So, I was like, well, should be what I do only. And there's not a whole lot of websites that are out there teaching like only, B.B. King, Dwayne Allman, and this kind of stuff. If I was like busy teaching like Boston licks and like Foreigner and whatever Prince or what, here's how to play Bon Jovi, here's how to play like Van Halen. If I had all that, then it wouldn't kind of be as specific, the niche anymore. It kind of take away from what I really like to do, which most people excel in different styles. There's not really a whole lot of people that can do every single style, like, I think, pretty well. Most people, like, gravitate to one style because they like that style, I think. I mean, there are exceptions. Some people can just play anything. I'm not really one of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I can play a little bit of everything, but I can't, like, excel at, like, jazz guitar because I just don't. I don't really want to. I mean, I like some of it. I'm interested in it. I've played it before, but I don't really enjoy playing it a whole lot. I'd rather just have a little bit of jazz in there or something. But that's kind of. I think if you like nail down like exactly what you like, people are going to be into it because you're more passionate about the stuff you like.
Makes
so
sense.
It's going to come across. If I'm just trying to teach someone like a Randy Rhoads lick, it's like, I kind of know it. I don't ever play Ozzy, but people want to learn it, so I'm going to teach it. I think those people won't have as much success in it. The guy that's listened to Ozzy his whole life, and his whole thing is like Ozzy Osbourne guitar. So I think there are probably a lot of websites out there that like start doing that. I think I've seen them. It's just they teach only one style.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Being specific is going to get you better results because you're gonna not only teach better or just whatever you do, you're gonna just be better at what you're doing because it's what you like the most. I mean, makes perfect sense. What are some key elements though to playing blues? Period, just blues guitar, like 3.
Well, I guess like 3 elements I would say are you have to have some kind of rhythm. You know what I mean? Like if you can't put things together rhythmically, I mean it's just not going to work out. An easy way to start doing that is just a lot of people play the minor pentatonic scale, just the dun 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 all the way up the scale. It's like I teach. You should definitely play that with just a swing 8th notes. It'll just help your feel so much better. Just going dun 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 dun. Learn how to just swing it instead of just playing dun 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 dun. Because how many times do you ever hear that in a blues song?
Yeah.
Hardly ever. It's weird. I mean, really, I only practice scales just to get technique or keep technique. But if you're using that to create your like guitar playing, it's not going to work because scales are not music. It's just an exercise.
Yeah.
And if you can like get out of that, but playing the scale and that swing kind of rhythm. So rhythm is definitely one thing you can have, and then melody. Some type of melody. And the only way to get melodies is to listen to a lot of music. I mean, you're not just going to create the greatest melodies ever because there's a lot of people out there who's created stuff that's way better than I could create.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just listening to B.B. King and Buddy Guy and Stevie Ray, getting it in there. Because if it's not like inside of you, it's going to be hard to reproduce it.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things. And then I guess a third thing is be able to sing what you play.
Yeah.
So, if you like have a chord progression and you can't really hear a solo and maybe sing, even if you can't sing at all, just sing a couple licks over top of that, you're probably never going to be able to improvise very well.
Yeah.
because you're not going to hear it. You know, to improvise, you got to hear it first and then play it.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, it's going to be really quick. Is how it works.
Yeah.
You hear something and you play it, and it just kind of all pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Actually,
you know, mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just hearing that in your head and be able to reproduce it. So I've definitely spent a lot of time walking around with guitar licks just flying in my head all day long, and sometimes it can get very annoying. But you know, that's just kind of what you just gotta start doing it. And yeah, I mean I can write entire solos in my head, and know I can see where they're happening, and I can change notes in my head and say, oh, that would sound pretty good there, or maybe I should put that together there, and kind of write a lot of it in your head, just visualizing. If you had a fourth one, visualizing the fretboard in your head, that's kind of key, because then you kind of see it all happening in your head. Mm-hmm. I wrote a blog post about that, just visualizing in your head yourself doing what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And that kind of helps, because next time you go to play it, I mean, you've already been visualizing it in your head. So it makes it a little bit easier. That's not the only thing you have to do, but I mean, that definitely helps. It's to visualize the fretboard and see, like, your hand, you know, vibratoing the 8th fret, you know, major 6th in the key of A right below it with the second finger on the G string, you know, and little BB King, and just moving there. I think it helps. Mm-hmm. And just visualize everything.
So sorry, I keep on running. My timing is so off in this interview. I apologize. But go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Oh man, I was going to mention that you reminded me of an experimentation that I did where this was over a jazz backing track.
Yeah.
And I just sang, just really, I made it super simple. I was like, blah, 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 you know, a bunch of stuff that I couldn't play. I just sang really simple notes over the whole track, and then I spent like a little bit of my practice chunk time every day for a week going back and transcribing those notes to the teeth. Like, and sometimes I didn't sing, you know, I wasn't singing on pitch. Yep. And what I found out is that the notes that I played ended up being more interesting than if I had tried to think the notes through. So, that you just reminded me of that, and I think it's being able to, like you said before, as far as guitar goes, you know, playing in a vocal style, but also thinking outside of the scales, and you know, thinking outside of the box is gonna make your playing. I mean, it wasn't amazing when I listened to it. Like, oh my god, I sound like you know, Joe Pass. You know, it wasn't like that. It was just like, oh wow, that's some of those note choices were interesting, and at least one lick that I came up with, I was like, whoa, that sounds really good. Yeah. So, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely dig what you're talking about with these elements for playing blues. So, John, like, for anyone out there that wants to, you know, take their blues guitar playing with those specific styles to the next level, what's the best way that they can get involved on learningguitarnow.com? Do you have a newsletter to sign up with? Yeah,
I mean, of course, you can go to learningguitarnow.com, and then you can check out the podcast. Just search for Learning Guitar Now or Guitar Lessons in iTunes. You can go to YouTube, search for my name, John Tuggle, or Learning Guitar Now, and I'll come up. I think I've got 100-something free videos on YouTube. And just the website, you know, you can sign up for the newsletter and get some free lessons as well. And you can find out about that at the homepage or on the blog. And DVDs and downloadable videos as well on the website. I've got 11 courses, I believe. That's got numerous lessons in between them. I think I've recorded at this time about, 33 DVDs material, probably about 60 hours worth. Mm-hmm. Of just blues, slide guitar, open G tuning, standard tuning, open E, open G, and standard. And it's pretty neat. You know, all those three tunings are very different for slide guitar. I mean, same kind of skills, but they play differently, and you got to use them differently. So it's interesting to learn, you know, a few different tunings instead of just being like only one.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much where to find out about myself. And more about the lessons and whatnot.
Okay. Well, John, thanks for coming on and sharing your musician slash business expertise with
Yeah,
us
yeah.
with
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
learningguitarnow.com.
Yeah, that's fun.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. Like I said, man, I even when you punch in blues backing tracks on
Yeah,
YouTube, you're the first hit with the
that's awesome.
slow blues in A.
Yeah,
I played that
yeah,
one to death.
yeah. That one's had a lot of controversy on that little. I put that backing track together when I first started doing them, and so I had previously done a different backing track, and I was like, "What? What if I could just like put it in A?" So Pro Tools came out with Elastic Audio. I was like, "I'm just gonna transpose and elastic everything out." So I think I slowed the drums down. I was not very good at it, but that's what it came out of it was that backing track. I played the bass in a different key, and I changed the pitch of it and stretched it for the tempo and the key. And there's a couple places where the kick and the bass like don't sync like perfectly, and
Oh yeah.
it's almost like it's more human that way, really, instead of just a computer program doing it. But there's been like so many comments about how awful like those couple places is. So it's been
I
really
honestly, to be honest with you, I have no clue what you're talking about. I guess I was just so
I
wrapped
didn't
up in
either
what I
until
was
like
playing.
I heard a few parts of it, and I was like, man, that's yeah, it's not really perfect. But it got popular, I think, because of that. That's what's crazy. I think part of the imperfections in the backing track caused like hundreds of comments and
hmm
people arguing and fighting or something. I don't know. YouTube's kind of crazy sometimes. But yeah, that backing track, it got pretty popular. There's been two of them that's got almost 1 million views apiece.
hmm
So that's been pretty crazy. Um,
So I just have one quick last question for you before I forget. It's a fun little question I like to ask. For some people, it completely trips them up. So if you can't answer, it's cool. You don't
yeah.
have to. But what is your favorite album, and what would your life be like if it never existed?
Yeah, that's a hard one for the
Bam.
favorite album.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. Well, I guess one of my favorite ones was Led Zeppelin 3. And that's kind of one of the reasons I started playing guitar. So maybe if it wasn't for
Same
that
for all of
album, I
us.
might not be playing guitar. What's that?
Yeah, I said same for all of us. So many other guitarists heard Zeppelin, they're like, okay, I'm playing
Yeah, I
guitar.
heard there was something about Led Zeppelin 3 because it had all those cool like acoustic songs on it too.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to play guitar. My parents had a house on a lagoon in Gulf Shores,
hmm
and so I would sit down below the house in a swing in front of the lagoon and listen to Led Zeppelin 3 and being like, if I could only sit here and play guitar with the water in front of you and the wind going by, that would be all I ever needed
hmm
as
Gulf
far as
Shores
just
is
play
it?
music. Yeah, it's in Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Gulf Shores, it's on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah. I was born in Pensacola, so I recognize
Oh,
when you
okay, it's
say
right
Gulf
there.
Shores. And I used to live in outside Huntsville, but which
Okay.
is way farther north. But no, that's cool. I love I love that area. The beaches are
Yeah,
so nice.
it's
Sorry, that's
awesome.
off topic, but yeah.
Yeah, that album was cool. I was like, I used to listen to it all the time. I had this like yellow waterproof radio that I just put the Led Zeppelin tape in and listened to it all the time. So that was kind of the. I was like, I definitely want to play this stuff somehow.
Okay, so you would have
So,
never played guitar if that album
right,
didn't exist.
that's one of the main reasons I wanted to play, just to
Yeah.
sit down like near the ocean and play acoustic guitar. So
Nice.
it kind of went further from that, but that initially that's all I wanted to do.
Nice, cool. That's a little bit Jack Johnson esque right there, you know. Acoustic
It
guitar.
had the tangerine on it, I guess, and a brawny R.
Oh yeah. Or
Uh,
Jimmy Buffett, you know. There's a lot of Jimmy
yeah,
Buffett in Gulf Shores
yeah,
Panhandle area.
yeah. I wasn't as big fan as those guys. I really liked the Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
The acoustic stuff was so
Yeah.
much cooler than the Jimmy Buffett or
Oh yeah, no,
whatever. You know?
I'll come straight out and say it. I don't care when I mean, I got worn out just because I lived in Florida for so
Oh
many
yeah,
years. So it's just like Jimmy
yeah,
Buffett all the time. Yeah,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
but John, yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
great
thanks for
having
having
you
me. That was fun.
Okay. Check you later.
Okay. All right, we'll see you.
See you.
So that wraps up another episode of Seeds of Music. This episode we had John Tuggle from learningguitarnow.com. Make sure to check out his website, and he's got a lot of free lessons on there too if you're just kind of getting your feet wet with playing blues in the style of Duane Allman, Eric Clapton, Derek Trucks, and B.B. King. But he also has a lot of great DVD products that take that even further and turn you into a really great blues player. If you haven't signed up for the email newsletter, make sure to do that right now if you want to stay up to date and never miss another interview. If you're watching this from YouTube and you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that's not the best way to stay connected with the community here at Seeds of Music. You need to be on the newsletter. So head over to seedsofmusic.net, put in your email into one of the forms. It's free, no spam, and you will never miss another interview. If you liked this video and you felt like you got something valuable from it, and you're really excited about learning how to play in the style of blues, then share it. You might have a friend who wants to do the same. And lastly, comment on the video. What was your greatest takeaway from the interview, and how will you apply what you've learned from John? So, the last thing I want to ask is, who would you like to see interviewed? Do you know of someone personally, or is there someone that you don't know personally but you would love to see and hear about their story and their tips for their success? Send me an email to kyle.seedsofmusic@gmail.com. Remember, like I said this before, I answer every single email. Probably take me 1 or 2 days at the most to get back to you, but rest assured I will answer that email. So don't be shy. Send me a question. Let me know who you want to see interviewed. Email me for anything. If you have to say any comment or anything, I'm open. I'm here all the time, or at least, as much as I can be. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next interview.